What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Respect and Pray Show. I am your host, Miguel Mike Medina, Triple M. In this episode, I have someone that I had a privilege of meeting at the New York Latino Film Festival a few years ago, and he was one of those recognizable faces because I feel like we were living in the same community, which is Washingtonites, but I've seen him doing so many great things with his life, and I just had to have him on board for this interview. So check it out because it's a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to present to you Mr. Carlos Lample. Carlos, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mike.
It's a pleasure. So we met a few years ago at the New York Latino Film Festival, and it's crazy because you seem like a recognizable face, I guess, because we both came from Washingtonites. So first of all, New York Latino Film Festival, how did that come about?
How did I start programming there, or how did the entire
the entire thing?
Well, Calixto Chinchilla is the founder and director, executive producer of that. He started that back in 1999, I believe. And, that was over the years, it grew, and, more filmmakers started coming and showcasing their films. I first interned there in 2004. I was a volunteer, and I met a lot of people, a lot of filmmakers and actors, people to this day, we stay to this day, we're still in touch and stuff. And I didn't start programming there until 2017. That's when I became part of the actual programming crew, that staff that kind of sees all the films, and then we pick, the 40 or 30 film shorts that we do,
Well, let's take it all the way back to the beginning. You're from the Heights, right? So how was the young Carlos before all of this happened?
Well, it's funny. I think I touched upon this.
Let me correct myself. Not young Carlos, but younger Carlos.
Oh, thank you for the compliment. So yeah, you know what? Media saved my life. The young Carlos, the teenage Carlos was a wild kid, kind of like a juvenile delinquent. Really, in the streets, up to no good. And I ended up, I ended up actually burning out pretty young. I mean, I dropped out of high school, which is really disappointing to my mother because, she's really educated. And, but whatever, somehow I got my act together. I got a GED, and then I got into media, and that led me to Bronx Community College, where I excelled. And I made my short film there. I went on to Hunter College, and I studied film. Of course, I graduated. So I'm a high school dropout, college graduate. If that makes any sense. And you know what? I've had the good fortune of working for big companies ever since. I've had a great career. I worked for companies like HBO, Disney, A&E, Hearst Media, and I'm at the point now that I'm kind of creating my own content, and I want to that's my next phase in my career.
Camera that you purchased, that you use, or you just borrow when it came to filmmaking?
You know what? When I got into filmmaking, it was at the dawn of the digital era. So I think the camera was a Sony DVX100. It was a digital, it shot SD, but it was digital, and it was no longer analog. We were coming into this other, now when I got into filmmaking, the Sony Vaio was my first computer, and you can actually edit video on that. So, mind you, Mike, this back in the 90s, if you wanted to make a short film, it was super expensive. And as far as the gatekeepers and, you had to go through 5-10 people to make something. Now we got YouTube, and we got all this equipment and all these social media. I mean, it's the perfect time to be a content creator. But back then, if you wanted to make anything, it was going to be very expensive, and it was going to have to be greenlit by, a small amount of people. So I guess I got into filmmaking right, at the right time. And that's a long answer to that question. I'm sorry to go on, to rambling on to that.
Is there anyone that you look up to or that you try to emulate when it comes to filmmaking, or where there were a specific course?
I guess like one of my first like I guess my first influencers like or influences of as far as filmmakers was like Oliver Stone, like that kind of filmmaker. Very, very political, very edgy, very controversial, likes to push buttons. Um, I guess my first like one of the experiences that I had that kind of launched me into like filmmaking, I guess, was back in '99. And this was a friend of mine I grew up with. He passed away like a couple of years back, unfortunately. But he was older guy, and his name is his name's Adrian Vargas, and he was like one of those guys from the block that kind of like had gone in another direction. Like as far as like he got into graphic design, and he kind of introduced me to that world. He brought me in to meet these filmmakers and opened my eyes to all these things that were happening. So he got me like a little gig on a documentary, and we went to Baltimore to the Camden Yards to shoot it. And that's something happened that day that it's like, wow, this is it. This is my calling. I want to do what these people are doing, you know?
Favorite breakfast meal?
All right. Nowadays, I'm doing oatmeal and blueberries because my cholesterol is really high. But tres golpes is a great breakfast, by the way. If I had to go the other way.
Favorite late night snack?
Late. Okay. I like veggie chips. Those veggie, right? It's like again, I'm these days I'm being very like health conscious. So I'm doing like, yeah.
A place you would like to travel that you haven't been to yet?
Japan. Yeah, I keep thinking about just that's in the back of my head. Like I have to go out. I have to see that. It's like 18 hours away and totally different. Very new, very different.
Which one would you prefer? Watch 5 short films in 1 hour, or watch a feature film in 1 hour?
I guess the shorts because yeah, I would the short films.
I like this next one. Listen to a new album on platforms like Spotify, or old school style, go to Loco Loco and purchase CD?
Oh, Loco, man. I mean, just because of the nostalgia. Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm a millennial. I'm old enough to see Loco Loco because my older sister used to have a bunch of collections of I-97. So, and I lived right nearby. I still live to this day, but I miss Loco Loco. Great memories of
Oh,
those early 2000s. But
yeah.
yeah, which streaming service you like to watch on your day off? Netflix or HBO Max?
You know what? HBO Max is just. I mean, they have better content. Actually, I mean, they have. If you really look at the library, they have. Yeah, well, HBO Max. I'll go with that one. Yeah.
Respect or loyalty?
Oh, good question. Respect more than anything. Yeah. Loyalty is very fluid. Depends.
Which sporty event would you consider if someone had an extra ticket to go to a game 7 of a World Series or Super Bowl?
Super Bowl. Super Bowl for sure. Yeah. Not really a
All
big,
right.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right. Not bad. Not bad. So you have a short film that will be premiering at Inwood Film Festival called My Day with a Millennial. What is the story about, and what was the inspiration behind it?
I'll start with the last question first. I mean, I went on a date with this girl. She was like, like I'm a Gen Xer. She's younger. She's like a millennial, and she kept looking at her phone a lot and doing that. That kind of like, like not being in the moment, just like whatever. It was the date was cool, but then afterwards, I was like just thinking like in my head, like it'll be funny, like if I did like a little skit or whatever, or a little short film based on that, but very exaggerated. So it's kind of based on a date. And the short film is, yeah, that's the premise of the short film. It's a Gen Xer. I made the guy divorced. I'm not divorced. The guy is divorced in the short film, and he goes on a date with this younger girl, and she's ignoring him, and he kind of starts fucking with her, and then she kind of just like at the end, she reveals that she was listening the whole time, and she gives it right back to him.
Any advice that you have for aspiring content creators or filmmakers? They see what you've gone through, trials and tribulations. So what advice would you give them?
Good question, man. I mean, I guess my best advice to any content creator, right, is to have an interesting life. Like your life, don't get so like caught up with the craft of like filmmaking. Of course, you want to have, you want to learn your craft, you want to know what you're doing, but in the end, your life is going to really, really like, the trials and tribulations of your life, right? The ups and downs, whether you're getting, whether you get married, when you divorce, whatever happens, all of that is going to shape your life and shape your content. So if you want to make great art, definitely have an interesting life. Take risks, like get out there and don't just like get so caught up with making films, and it has to be the camera settings and the editing. I mean, you want to know all of that, but you definitely want to have a interesting life.
Where can we follow you and your work?
Well, on IG, I'm Silos NYC, right? That's my handle. I'm on Facebook as well for the older people, Carlos Lample, right? That you can just find me through there. And yeah.
Carlos.
I think I'm on TikTok, but I forgot the handle, whatever.
Carlos, thank you for joining me on this interview. It's been a pleasure. Yes. Much respect. Praise to all the work that you're doing, and keep going. Looking forward to seeing your new project.
I want to see your films as well, man. I know that you've been doing some films, and I'm looking forward to your new film whenever you come out with that.
Yeah, I'll be sharing you some stuff, that I have up my sleeve. So definitely, I'll send that your way.
Definitely, man. The world needs that Miguel content, man.
Well, that does it for this episode of the Respect and Praise Show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. All right, don't forget. And you guys know the motto: have mutual respect, mutual love, and mutual admiration. So stay tuned for the next episode.